Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
Welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race Recap Show for Season 17, Episode 11, titled Ross Matthews versus the Ducks. My name is Joe Batanz, and I am joined as always by one duplicitous co-host from the podcast Bravo, Bravo, effing Bravo. Please say, all right, let's just get this show started. All right, well, I guess we'll just start the show. To Nathan Patrick Brown. Hello, Nathan.
Hey, Joe.
A joke that literally, well, I guess there are a few other people know what I'm talking about, but like one person here knows what I'm talking about. How are you doing, Nathan?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And in fact, you and I just recorded 4 days ago an episode of Just Between Us Girls where I actually listened to it today. What did we talk about? I listened to it. I know what we talked about. Well, we talked about Good Day Dolly.
Yes.
And how there was a certain someone who went to see your show and didn't say hello.
Oh, yeah.
And then I told a story about how I was embarrassed that I did a show that I talked about how I don't like talking about myself, and then spoke about myself for an hour. And then on the episode of Just Between Us Girls, where I say I'm embarrassed that I did this, every story you told, I brought back to myself.
And here we are talking about it again.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And and I always say the same thing. You can listen to Just Between Us Girls in several places. You can listen to patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia at the executive tier level and above. Don't forget, you can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only do you get Just Between Us Girls, you get the full uncut Drag Race episode at the same time that everybody else does. All that at Apple Podcasts, just right there. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, right there. But there's also other big news that as the Afterthoughts know. Now, if you want to listen to your Afterthought media shows, even the free ones that I talk about, you can do that on Spotify now. You can go to Spotify and look up Afterthought Media Backstage Pass. Subscribe to that show. Any free you don't have to do anything special. Any free content that we release will then show up in your Spotify feed. And if you're a Patreon supporter, if you link your account to if you link your Patreon and Spotify account, which I've learned you have to do on your Patreon page. Okay, you have to do it through Patreon, link your Spotify account. You can listen to your tier of shows right there on Spotify if you want to listen to your Patreon shows on Spotify. Now, future Joe, this is only for the Patreon supporters. Cut this out for the public feed show. I guess this makes no sense. I have to keep it in the public feed show because I'm trying to talk to them.
I feel like half the time when you say future Joe, you forget anyway.
I know. Okay, future Joe, ignore that. Okay. Public feed people, you have to hear this because there might be people who like, I don't know what happened. Why is it that my Patreon show didn't come out? I made an important announcement. I think it's very smart for everybody, even if you're getting this show when you're supposed to. I think everybody should unsubscribe on their podcast app. This is only if you listen, by the way, on an app other than Patreon. Unsubscribe, go to your homepage, recopy your link, and resubscribe. If you want to know the details, go to your Patreon app and look up the announcement and explain it there. Okay, That's everything there. Nathan Patrick Brown, how have you been doing?
Good. Yes, very good. You know how last week I was so excited to talk about this episode, last week's episode. Now this week, I'm not excited at all.
Yeah, other than the first act, I don't really have any much to say. And what's funny is the first act I have no notes.
Oh, it was a dreadful show. Dreadful show.
I don't know if I call it dreadful, but I was just like, it's not that exciting. Here's the deal. What's more exciting is all the drama happening with me and Blackstone and Helen Schaefer-Gray's involved. But we'll get into that one.
Shit.
Yes, she's involved. Blackstone's involved. Christian Ochoa is strangely involved.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, of course, is anybody shocked?
Are you talking about the Mount Rushmore of horrible people?
So we'll get into that in the segment. But, when we get to the fashion part. But the point is, Good Day Dolly's going well. Everything's going well there.
Just did 4 big shows over the weekend in a heat wave, which was challenging. But yeah, we did good. Good feedback. Going all
right. Very good. And then with me, is this all? Oh, no, we're fine here. Why don't we do this? Then why don't we take a break?
Okay.
And is there anything else we do here? I think we just chit chat, right? Yeah. Then we take
you
a
just
break.
do your plugs.
Yeah, and then we take a break, and when we come back, then we're gonna talk about the overall episode, our big takeaways, all that jazz. We're gonna listen to all that. Wait, are you drinking a Pepsi?
Pepsi Max.
People know this. If there's an establishment that only serves Pepsi, I won't eat there.
I prefer it.
What an asshole! No, it's disgusting. All right. All right. Well, I guess we'll take a break now. All right, we'll just take a break.
Hi there, it's your vagina speaking. I know sometimes I have a hard time getting there when we get down, but OMG Cream from Wisp is here to help. The instant arousal makes it easier to, It takes 2 minutes to order online, so let's give it a try. OMG. I literally just went to heaven. I'm gonna try that again. Go tell your friends though, get on Wisp. Order OMG Cream online at hellowisp.com. That's hello, WISP.com, and have it delivered for free. Use code OMG for 15% off your first order.
From ADT comes Trusted Neighbor, the new standard in home access. Through the ADT Plus app, easily grant and automate event-based or scheduled access for neighbors, friends, and helpers. Notify trusted individuals of events like alarms or packages, and set access windows for planned guests or even the dog walker without interrupting your day. Visit ADT.com. When every second counts, count on ADT. Requires ADT Complete Pro monitoring plan and compatible devices. Copyright 2025 ADT LLC. All rights reserved.
This episode is brought to you by Hyundai. Think you know what an electric vehicle should be? Think again. From the charge time and range in the Ioniq 5 and 6 to the 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N, Hyundai is redefining what EVs should be. Learn more about Hyundai EVs at HyundaiUSA.com. EPA estimated 303-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE SEL limited rear-wheel drive and 361-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 6 SE long-range rear-wheel drive with fully charged battery. Actual range may vary.
And we are back. This week, the girls perform in a spoof of the Ryan Murphy-produced Truman Capote versus the Swans. On the runway, the category is the black and white ball. Later, Anya Nerve was named the winner of the challenge, while Lydia B. Collins and Lana Jarre were placed in the bottom two. After lip-sync battle for their lives, Lana was told, "Shantae, you stay," while Lydia was asked to sashay away. Nathan Patrick Brown, as always, two-parter to this. What did you think of that lip sync, and did the right queen go home? And then later we'll discuss the big takeaways from the episode. But you go now.
Yeah, the lip sync was kind of a mess. I was enjoying Lydia before the scissors came out, but after that it was rough. But I kind of wish Lydia stayed because, Rue this season has saved multiple people, it seems, who have lost their wigs in a lip sync. So I'm like, is it really that much of a crime to botch cutting yourself out of your own dress? So I was like, it could have gone either way. I would have preferred Lydia to stay, just because I think we've seen everything Lana has to give, I think. Even though she didn't deserve to be in the bottom this week, I was like, either or. But Lydia she's just a bit more interesting. than Lana.
It's really sad. They were handing Lana to Lydia on a silver platter. If she would have just not cut the dress, she would have won hands down. Lana would have been what I always said, want to go away. And she would have gone away. And she basically Lydia handed Lana a gift. Because now she won another week where she has to. And it's another performance challenge next week, I think, right? What is it next week? They showed the preview.
Yeah, they showed the preview, but I still don't really have clarity on what it is. Something about a monologue?
Oh, yeah. That Lana Del Rey's going to fuck that up. So they'll just send her home next week, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, if she just wouldn't have, because she was doing fine. Lydia's actually a good lip syncer. And so she was doing fine. She tried to do something special. Lana was just there doing the same old fucking tricks.
With no energy.
So in a weird kind of way, yeah, Lydia did this to herself. So, but in theory, the right queen did not go home. Lydia fucked up the lip sync, but it should have been Lana Del Rey gone on this episode. All right, what was your big takeaway from this episode?
Oh, it's time for Ross to be put down. I don't think he's fun. I don't think he's funny. I thought that acting challenge was terrible. He adds nothing to the show. I think he was fine years ago, but he's just been stale ever since. I think let's mix it up and get someone fresh onto this show and get rid of him.
Yeah, so I've thought about this. I was thinking about this. And first of all, why was he doing a Truman Capote impression? Because they didn't call it Truman Capote and the Ducks. They called it Ross Matthews. So shouldn't he be doing Ross Matthews?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they wanted to spoof a show that I don't think many people watched. Like, I only got like 1 or 2 episodes in, and then I gave up on that show. So I don't know why they picked it in the first place. Why did he have a Truman up his sleeve that he just wanted to show off?
Okay, now we're gonna get to Truman Capote versus SWAT. I have not watched one frame of this episode, but I knew the story of what happened, and to me, it's like maybe a 90-minute movie at most.
It felt that way watching it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and then they made a whole series out of it. And you're like, well, how was it a series?
And they cast so many good actresses, but it just wasn't interesting.
That's the thing with this Ryan Murphy is the pilot's always good, and then it literally falls apart after the pilot. Anyway, so again, the show was the spoof was called Ross Matthews versus the Ducks. So why was he doing a terrible Truman Capote impression?
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't even a good Truman.
No. And so there was that. The other thing too, and it made me, a lot of people have been saying what you're saying, echoing it on Reddit and whatnot. But it really made me think about they treat Ross like he's this comedy genius. But do you know his story, Nathan?
Yeah, wasn't he on Jay Leno or something as like an intern?
He was an intern on the Tonight Show, and they essentially were just making fun of him, the big faggot. Yeah. Right? They're like, oh, we'll just sick this really super flamboyant gay young intern we have on the red carpet. That'll be funny. Right? And then he got mildly popular from that. And then he just sort of like, and look, bravo on him for, leveraging what should have been 15 minutes into a career. I mean, I will give him credit for that. But he has no real acting experience. He has no real comedy experience.
Fucking directing experience. When he was directing from the floor on this episode, I was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I've talked about this with Michelle Visage. I get mad when Michelle Visage does it, but when Michelle Visage is in the recording sessions, I'm like, okay, she knows her lane. She actually was part of a singing group. She knows about this. This is her world, And so, yeah, I don't get the whole Ross Matthews thing.
Well, I've enjoyed him before, but not everyone needs to be on every season. We only had Merle for like 2 years. Let's just fuck this guy off and get someone else on. Let's freshen it up.
Well, I don't even mind them having him. I don't even think he's a terrible judge. I'm just more like, look, I've always advocated, in fact, the best use of Ross Matthews is to have Rue stop doing the table visits and have Ross and Carson do the table visits. Have them switch off. Or whatever Busty McBoobity's name. What's her name again? T.S. Madison. Have her go in there and be all sassy.
Busty McBoobity is a great drag name.
My drag name. And They should have, those would be good uses for them. And I think Ross would be good on the table of visits. But yeah, he's not. I don't know why they think he's like some sort of like the hilarious Ross Matthews, because she's not that hilarious.
She's not hilarious. And it seems like every season they want to have to do, or every second season they want to have to do like an acting challenge with Ross involved. Mm-hmm. Like, you remember the Bossy Rossi talk show or whatever? And it's like, how did he finagle this?
Yeah, no, look, you're a television personality, and there's nothing wrong with that. But stay a television personality. You're not some sort of like improv queen. I don't know what that came from. My big takeaway from the episode is we had an anomaly last week, in that these episodes should be starting to get more and more boring. And so this episode was typical for the number it is in the season. No one ever remembers a number 11, you know? Mm-mm. And so it was the appropriately boring. It's a little bit more so this season because they've gotten rid of anybody remotely interesting, you know? And so now you're just having people all because now they all have their eye on the prize. And they're all of a sudden playing Miss America. Notice Lexi Love, who in the first act was 1 hour before bitching about how she was last, and all of a sudden she's like, yeah, Arriety, man, she's a lot. And you're like, bitch, 2 hours ago you were crying. What is this? Again, this has not been a week for them. This has been in the first act, the opening part of the show. Dun 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 dun. You know, when they walk in, that's they're walking in from the elimination. Yeah, you know, and so this has only been a few minutes since then. So I don't know. So I don't have a big takeaway. My big takeaway, there's nothing to take away because it's so boring. This episode was so boring. But that's okay because that's what happens at this part of the season. I think the failure of this show is it's the rest of the season was just only a little bit a cut above this. Oh, we'll take season 6. Season 6 is a good example of this. Season 5 is a weird one because season 5 actually is backwards. It's a little kind of boring, except for Untucked. In the episodes themselves are kind of not boring, but like mid in the beginning, but it gets better as it builds to the end. Season 5 is the only one like that. Whereas season 6 is your typical classic season. Starts off with a bang. It's fucking fantastic. As it gets closer and closer, you know, you have some moments, but after Laganja leaves and that whole drama, can you remember much of that show afterwards? They tried to build up this fake Ben de la Creme versus Darian Lake feud, but that was just building something out of nothing. Yeah. Those episodes too, they kind of suffer all the way. They literally like struggle they're gasping for air to get to the finale and white knuckling it. And so we're just in a typical season. The problem, it didn't give us a lot of gangbusters at the beginning. So it's just like, oh, well, it's just petering out to the end. But this is not unusual at this stage of the game. All right. Those are the big takeaways. Okay. So at this point, if you're in the public feed, and like I told you, you can go on Apple Podcasts. You can go up there and subscribe. And you don't have to go to the Untucked Lounge. You can stay out here with us as we deliberate. But at this point is where we are going to say goodbye and do the Untucked Lounge, and we'll call you when we're ready. Okay, let's go to the filming thing. So they film the scenes. And is Cheyenne Jackson supposed to be directing, but this Ross Matthews, I don't know, is co-directing? I don't know what's going on there.
He was really stepping on Cheyenne's toes.
I think we saw more of Ross directing than we did of Cheyenne.
Yeah, but who was directing Ross?
I know. Who warms the sun? But here's the thing, too, is the advice this Ross gave was horrible.
Horrible. And then he brings that into like the critiques later where he's like, you know, Lydia, I really wanted you to say it like this. And it's like, who cares what the fuck you wanted? Who cares? If she didn't take your direction, you're not the director.
I know. And then we already talked about Ross changing his voice. I'm like, I don't even understand what he's changing. First of all, he already had a faggoty voice. So why are you doing a more faggoty voice? And also, it's called Ross Matthews versus the Ducks, not Truman Capote versus the Ducks.
And that's what was so confusing, because he's in one scene on a fucking typewriter as if it's back in Truman Capote times, and yet he's filming on an iPhone. Like, what? This script,
it would be if, like, I was like, instead of calling it Seinfeld, we're calling it Batance, right? It's about Joe Batance, and he does like Lori is Kramer, Taylor's like Elaine, and I don't know who George is, right? Jay. I'll just say Jay's George. Actually, I think that sounds right.
Jay could be Elaine, I think.
Yeah, Jay could be Elaine, and then who's George?
Lori's George and Kramer.
Yeah, Lori is both George and Kramer. She's doing dual roles, right? And then everyone Lori's just being Lori, and then I come in and I'm like, oh, why am I here? Why is it called this? Why is it called a TV? And I'm like, who are these people? And you're like, wait, it's called Batance, not Seinfeld. Oh, why is it called Batance? It's not Batance. It's Batance. And then you're like, well, I don't understand what's going on here, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, why are you doing Truman Capote? That's not what this is not Truman Capote and the Ducks. It doesn't logically make sense. And it's not like, oh, Ross is so fucking hilarious that we want to see him doing Truman Capote. No, he's just doing a shitty Truman Capote. He's just sounding,
we don't want that.
Yeah, no one wants this.
And he looked terrifying.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's because I've never seen him in a hat before, but he didn't look good. I was like, when he lost weight, did he lose the funny? I don't know.
Ross, he never was funny. Ross has AIDS. That would be fun. The funniest thing Ross could do would be to get AIDS. Thank you. Okay. So everyone's always trying to stop Susie. Yeah. I don't know why. I've never seen her be particularly amazing.
No.
Meanwhile, why aren't they trying to stop this Anya? She is so fucking good every single time. I'm not even. This is not my phrase. I don't remember who coined this. It's a famous black writer. But the soft bigotry of low expectations.
I think that was me. I think I said that a couple of weeks ago.
Nathan said it a couple of weeks ago. Strangely, he was talking about Below Deck on his own show. And it's weird that he dropped that. But yeah, there's the soft bigotry of low expectations. I think that's really what we're seeing here is how is it that Anya is crushing it on these performance challenges every single fucking episode? At every performance challenge, if you think about it, every performance challenge, Anya has gone above and beyond, and these girls act like she's mid at best. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations. Let me Google who said that because they deserve the credit because we're seeing it in action here. Thank you. What do you have to say about that?
Well, yeah, I think even like Lana's critiques this episode was just that she got overshadowed by Anya. And so you'd think she'd be terrified to be joining a scene with Anya. But yeah, they've all sort of missed that memo. I don't know how.
Oh, I didn't realize this. It's actually a George Bush speechwriter. Yeah, George Bush, President George W. Bush, his speechwriter Michael Gerson coined the phrase.
Are you going to use that quote all the time still now that you know it's from him? Or
yes. Look at a good quote is a good quote.
Good quote. It's a good quote. Changed a lot of lives.
And it changed a lot of lives. So we're seeing it here. I mean, it is the soft bigotry of low expectations. Like, how is it that Anya is crushing it week after fucking week? And they're like, yeah, we don't have to stop Anya. You know, Anya gets whatever she wants. In a good way, it benefits Anya because Anya goes, I want this role. I'm like, sure, whatever, Anya. And then Susie is when did Susie do really well? I'm being completely honest.
It's just that when she tapped in Morse code, and that's about it.
The tapping in Morse code and the rusical.
There was the ones where they had, well, there was SNL she was all right in.
Okay.
And then there was where they were doing music videos to past fights and quotes from Drag Race. She did all right there.
But she did it right. But Anya's crushed at every one of these challenges.
And Anya's never had to fight for a role. You're right. It's crazy.
Let's talk about that time when they were shooting and Lexi Love was trying to do the ASMR thing. And I was like, does Lexi Love know what ASMR is? Who is she doing that scene with? Susie, right? And Susie's doing it correctly. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're doing. My mic might not pick it up. And then Lexi's like, this is ASMR. And I'm like, I don't think she knows what ASMR is.
She's just always flubbing. And there's just so much struggle.
Oh, this Lexi turned it around. I'm like, she did?
I didn't understand that either.
But they do that to her every week. Every week she gets this like, oh, she saved the day. And I'm like, when did she save the day? I've never seen this. They keep, every week that's her narrative. It's like, oh, she was going to do really badly and she pulled it out. I'm like, she did? I've never, the Gilbert Gottfried at the Snatch Game, the thing with the dress and the spray paint. And you're like, it's every week. You're like, oh, she pulled it out. And I'm like, when? I don't see that. Anyway, okay, now let's talk about, I love how we're basically talking about the challenge here, but so Jules says in a confessional that she really wanted the role of Chicago, which was a take on this Tiffany New York Pollard speech from Big Brother UK. And she goes, oh, I knew it by heart as my whole adolescence. And then she doesn't deliver, and they keep trying to say, look how well she knows this. She can't even remember our version of it. She keeps going back to the old one. But I think what's iconic about the speech is not only the words that Tiffany Pollard says, which they're doing a different version on. So now you have to really hit this. It's the inflection. She can't get Tiffany New York, and it's not a hard inflection to do, you know? Especially if you have the speech memorized, like she said she did, you would have that inflection because she's hitting certain words in a way like you could almost visualize it. Like there's certain words, like there's an old maiden type of shoe. Like she elongates certain words. She really emphasizes them, and those words are iconic. And so like she couldn't even get that. It was really weird.
Yeah, she flubbed it knowing the reference. And some of the others, I think, didn't get the references at all. Like Lana, did anyone tell her that I don't know her as like a Mariah Carey quote? She never said it like Mariah. Not once. When she says it 3 times.
That's the weird thing too, is like, I was like, she never, because the funny thing about the way that Mariah says it is that she clearly knows, I think this is one of the cuntiest things ever, and I love it, right? Is the way that Mariah Carey keeps claiming not to know Jennifer Lopez, right?
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. But the way she does is like, yeah, I don't know her. I don't. It's almost like, yeah, I'm trying. You guys keep saying I know her, but I'm trying to think, and I don't think I do. It's always like, even now she can't keep a straight face when she's doing it. She'll just be like, yeah, it's just... I don't know. Like, I don't know her. No. And Lana was doing this weird thing with it. She wasn't getting it.
She wasn't getting it. And also the ASMR one with Lexi and Susie was meant to be like the Amsterdam fight from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Okay,
this is why I'm glad. So what were all these moments pulled from? Do you know what they were all pulled? Like, I don't know this world that much.
I didn't clock the butthole one with the proctologist cheating husband or whatever, but this ASMR one, that was straight out of that scene from Beverly Hills.
So what happened?
So Lisa Rinna, it's Lisa Rinna against Kim Richards in Amsterdam.
Which they name her like Liza Rinna or something like that. But then she's doing somebody else.
So Lexi was Lisa Rinna and named something similar. So that one was fine. But they named Susie something Slander Pump, but she was a mashup of like Eileen Davis and Kim Richards. So the Vanderpump didn't work at all. But it's all like have a piece of bread and calm down and don't talk about the husband. Like basically Kim Richards was just trying to piss Lisa Rinna off and she did. It was fucking amazing.
But were they whispering?
No, but that fight, I think, you know, when there was the ASMR trend, you know, where people would reenact scenes in ASMR, that was one of the big viral ones, I think. So I guess that's the connection. But I was like, Lexi's never seen an episode because she did not nail that at all.
But why couldn't they tell them this is what it is? Like, this is what you're trying. Like, even Cheyenne, couldn't he say, like, okay, listen, I got to explain it to you. There's this thing. Let me show it to you. Blah, 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 blah. Right?
Like, give him an iPad with the scene and just say, watch this.
Yeah. And so, like, what were the scenes? What do we know? Well, do we know them?
So the first one was Lana and Anya.
And you don't know what that one is.
It was the mother-daughter, I don't know her thing. And then a cat fight broke out. A cat fight breaks out in all of them because it's that fucking repetitive.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that.
On that note, why don't we bring back my girls? Back on the main stage, RuPaul names the tops and bottoms. She's also asked a question, who should go home and why? Susie Toot walks away with the most votes because people see her as the biggest competition. Later, RuPaul names Anya Nerve as the winner of the challenge and places Lana Jarre and Lydia B. Collins in the bottom two, forcing them to face off in a lip-sync battle for their lives. The song Unholy by Sam Smith. In the end, Lana Jarre lived to see yet another day, while Lydia B. Collins was asked to sashay away. Nathan Patrick Brown, any final thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, that who should go home and why section was annoying and dull. I really don't like when they're like, oh, my biggest competition. It's like, oh, come on, grow a pair. So only Anya and Susie answered it correctly. So I respect them for that. And I just don't understand the logic of highlighting to the judges that you think another competitor is better than you. Like, I just don't understand how that helps them at all. So I think they're fucking dum-dums. And that's about all I've got. And this Sam Smith, I don't really like them. But
Oh, you don't?
No. I think ever since they were like, I'm the first gay person to win an Oscar. When they won an Oscar, I was like, all right, Mary. So ever since then, I'm like, fuck this Sam Smith.
And wasn't that immediately disproven?
Yes. Immediately.
Also, like, look, I know they go by they, them pronouns, but I feel like they were putting they, them pronouns on people that they weren't sure or use they, them pronouns.
I think Sam does, though.
No, Sam does, but when Sam was doing the critiques, would be like,
right.
Lana's look was good. They did this. I'm like, you don't know what pronouns Lana uses.
You think on Drag Race, the default can be she, her, since they're all fucking dressed as women, mostly, like, right?
I'm not going to get into this. You're going to territory I don't want to get into. And we went like 20 minutes longer than I wanted to for this episode. So why don't we do this? Am I cutting you off? Are there thoughts you have?
That's it.
Yeah. That's going to do it for this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Recap. Be sure to join us next week and every week as we continue to discuss, dissect, and deconstruct each brand new episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17. So for Nathan Patrick Brown and myself,
sashay away until next week.
Thank you for listening to Drag Race Recap. Have something to say? Leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/afterthoughtmedia. You can also email us at dragracerecap@afterthought.media. For more Drag Race and LGBTQ+ content, support us over at patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia. This podcast was produced by Luke Stamen. You can follow Nathan Brown over on Instagram at NathanBrown90. Follow Joe Batance on Instagram at Joe Batance. Special thanks to these expensive tier Patreon supporters: April Pacheco, Astute Girl, Brad Coley, Derek Byers, Doofus Maximus, E. Smith, Effie Wap, Emma, Phil Skit Pony, Blind Suki, Humble Pie, J. Thomas Plank, Kathy Zender, Katie Whitmire, Lauren Eckert, Lucy Carrasco, Luke Stamen, Mary S., Mike Yeager, Nikki Baker, Nikki Pettit, Polly, Poppy Woods, Ricardo Herrera, Runner Brandon, Sarah Yu, Tom Bombs, Travi Cosmos, and Troy Anderson. Drag Race Recap is an Afterthought Media podcast.